chapter 18. We're going to talk about population ecology. This is a fascinating topic, in my opinion. It deals with numbers and how much biolife can be supported by a habitat. So let's go through and get a couple of definitions straight. Ecology is just the study of all the relationships among all the organizations, including their environment. Okay? There's several studies, several levels you can make these studies. A population is a group of interbreeding organisms. Okay? And it's of the same species, occupying the same area at the same time. So you can have isolated populations that are breeding, interbreeding, and they're completely isolated from other parts of the population. And these sorts of things can affect gene pools. So you can have different gene pools in different areas within the same species. And sometimes, if they're isolated long enough, they will become new species as they mutate and evolve. A community is when you take all the populations of all the different living organisms in a given area. So all the species of plants, all the species of microbes, all the species of animals, etc., and how they interact. The ecosystem is the biotic living community. That means all the different species. Okay. But it also includes all of the abiotic or non-living parts, like the rocks and the dirt and the gravel and whatever. Then the biosphere is that thin layer across the surface of the earth where life exists. Okay. The habitat is the location where members of a population live. The palms in a dry habitat, the penguins in a rocky, icy habitat down in Antarctica. Population density is the number of individuals of species per unit area or unit volume of a habitat. Penguins live in very dense, uniformly spaced populations. But palm trees grow in clumps, and it's usually related to the availability of water, even if it might be very far beneath the surface. How do we estimate population size? There's several ways. You can do aerial photos and then count the individuals. You can sample a small subset. You count the number of individuals somehow, and then extrapolate that to include all of the habitat. You can do a market recapture study. This is a way of basically you're trapping animals and you mark them somehow, and then you release them, and you periodically trap in that same area, and you count how many individuals you catch more than once. So there are several factors that affect the population. So we're going to estimate how a squirrel population will change over time. This guy named Thomas Malthus came up with a scientific theory about human population growth. And it applies to all species. Basically, every species will produce more offspring than the habitat can support. So, there are some things that occur that will increase a population. Births, babies born. How many animals migrate into a population? All right, and we put that together with things that just basically